Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Planet Haltech.
Yes, you liked episode 1, so we thought we'd do episode 2, and we might even do episode 3 next month. It's our monthly wrap-up of everything that's happened in the world of Haltech, or on Planet Haltech as you might say. And mate, there's been some stuff going on in the last month. We started last month with Maatouks. They did a PB in the new car, the Don, and they were back at it again this month.
And they've backed it up, showing that that car is a serious contender. It went 582, 242 mile an hour. So that's showing that every time that thing goes out, it's just going to get faster. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think they've run a 610 or a 620 in that car. I think it went from testing at 650s one pass
And straight into the 5s. Mate, just across the water over in New Zealand, our friends over there have been doing some drifting. They had round 2 and 3 of the D1NZ series at Hampton Downs. Team PB Drift, Haltech guys, fantastic result. They took the win in Pro Sport on the Saturday.
Killing it. And then Cody took second place in the pro class on the Sunday.
Yeah, so 1 and 2. Like, really great result from those guys over there. And coincidentally, Hampton Downs is also where our friend Mad Mike is based. And he's got a bit of news he's just released recently. He's going to be going over to Japan to compete over there. So that's awesome. It'll be great to see him back in Humble in the quad rotor RX-7. Que passione, eh? In Europe, the Haltech guys have been kicking ass over there. GMC Racing in particular, they won the class win at the round 3 of the Italian Time Attack series, and in their Subaru.
They got a Subaru and they won it, so that means it probably had like a Mitsubishi driveline or something.
I believe it's an EJ. Speaking of hill climb, our friend Karl Schagerl.
Oh, indeed, we saw some of the in-car and some of the where he bumped the Armco the other day.
Yeah. So again, back at it again. He was in over in the Czech round of the European Hill Climb Championship, FIA Championships, and he not only won that class, he set a track record.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that car is phenomenal.
And Richo, you've got even more European circuit racing news. What else have you got?
We do indeed. Team Stockinger competed in the Hartbergerland Rallye. Sounds like my type of place. So they've got a Mazda 2 Proto, and it's a really interesting class, this Proto class, because it's a tube frame, and they've got a bunch of different bodies that they can choose from. And you made a joke before about engine swaps and Mitsubishi swaps. They actually all run Evo 9 running gear.
Not a setup. One of the next stories was as simple as this is a Mazda 2 with full Evo 9 running gear.
Yep, it's a fiberglass body. They run a full Haltech setup with an IC7, and they finished second in their class with Marcus Stockinger driving.
But they're four-wheel drive and they're out of control. And now skipping across the other ditch from Europe into America, Devin Schultz in the Boostin Performance Red Demon 2, absolutely killing it over there. So it's a 4G63 powered four-wheel drive Talon, 698 at 215 mile an hour, which has actually made it the fastest 4-cylinder all-wheel drive in the world. And it's a H-pattern style transmission. That is pretty crazy.
Yeah, he's swapping cogs himself. It is wild, and that guy can drive.
One of the things that's so amazing about the Red Demon is that because it's got an east-west style engine at the front, so that means that the crankshaft is running between the strut towers at the front of the car, then it's got a transfer case to the back. They don't 60-foot as well as, say, like a GTR style car that has a north-south style engine.
What's the physics behind that? Why is that the case?
Well, all of the weight transfer, basically what's happening, this is a front-wheel drive car essentially that has rear drive. So this thing would be 60 footing at somewhere around 118, 1.2 60 foot. Whereas if you had something like a R32 or a GTR sort of style setup, they're predominantly a lot more rear-wheel drive with front-wheel drive as well. So they would be able to 60 foot in the, pretty much like a Pro Mod car. So they would be able to 60 foot in the sub 1.1s.
Okay.
So this thing running 690s is unbelievable, and that's really showing big power, and it's showing that it's putting those times in at the back half of the track, which is the hard place to put it on.
Mate, one more car that I want to talk about hasn't run a PB because it's a brand new thing, but it's really cool. So, and I know you had a little bit to do with the setup on it. Is the Odom Racing? They call it the CEO. It's a GTR R35. Not a lot of R35 GTR in the car because it's a Pro Mod with a massive screw-blown V8. Tell us a bit about it. 4,500 horsepower.
The guys in the US office helped configuring this thing. John owned it. Interesting car because it's an R35 GTR body shape, but like you said, screw-blown V8. And the idea behind this is that John, in the very beginning, started his racing in an R35 GTR that was, flash tuned, and then he went on to do some serious mods to it, and then kept pushing and pushing, and then decided that the right way to go forward after a chance encounter with a bunch of V8 screw-blown guys was to put a screw-blown V8 into the R35 body that he loved so much and that he was so comfortable in. And he's ended up with a 4,500 horsepower, 250 mile an hour, screw-blown V8, R35 bodied Pro Mod car. It's awesome. It's such a cool thing. And good on him for doing whatever he wants.
So, mate, last month in episode 1 of Planet Haltech, we talked about Pro Charger cars a little bit. This one's a screw-blown car. What's the difference? I mean, obviously, there's a difference in setup, and one's got a belt, and one's. Is there an advantage to one or the other? Or
there's definitely benefits in both. Of a screw-blown style like this, probably the biggest downside to this is the heat that they build. So because the tolerances in these superchargers are so tight, there's so much heat generated when they're physically working. We need to put a heap of methanol-style fuel through the top of that blower in order to cool that charge. On the other style of supercharging, not so much the case. Admittedly, whenever you're compressing any air, you're going to make heat and you're going to need to cool it somehow. So whether that's chemically with the methanol or whether that's through an intercooler. On a screw-blown style thing, you can't really intercool it because, I shouldn't say that, not with a conventional front mount like us turbo guys are used to.
right, you can put one in between.
Yep. There can be like a plate, a water-cooled style plate there. A lot of the big boat guys are keen on that.
Okay.
But that's because they've got a heap of water around to pull up and put through that cooling system.
And am I right in thinking in this style of screw-blown, you're actually compressing the fuel-air mixture because the fuel goes in the top, right?
You can do both. So typically on our systems, you would put fuel at the top, which is as much fuel as you can get in the top to cool it and to fuel the engine. Then we've also got 8 injectors below, like port injectors, to be able to do individual cylinder trimming to get all of our EGTs consistent, showing us that we got our airflow consistent. Because these things, the way that they chuck the air into the engine, typically we end up with a huge variance of difference between the cylinders. So the back of the engine is normally got a lot more flow than the front of the engine. And we need to be a little bit careful when we're tuning stuff like this.
So you sort of think of these as a bit old school, but there's actually quite a bit of new technology goes into them.
Absolutely, and they keep evolving, and there's a reason why Top Fuel are using these and they're not using a Pro Charger style setup.
So, mate, that's the racing. Let's stay in America and have a talk about some of the events that we're on, or particularly one event, the Haltech Hyperfest.
Nice.
Yeah. Looked like a fantastic event, mate. They've got so much cool stuff going on there. They've got drifting, they've got racing, they've got off-road, they've got a full music festival.
Barbecue?
Probably. It wouldn't be America without barbecue. was a really nice sort of feel-good story that came out of it from some of our guys over there. So there was one of these guys was drifting a Corvette, and the car just started playing up, like just cutting out and all sorts of stuff. It turns out the factory ECU, which is bolted behind the wheel in the front guard, fell out. Nick and I think Jay from Haltech USA said, hey, look, we've got a Haltech here, why don't we wire it in for you? And they did it was almost like a live show of how to wire in a Haltech right there in the pits.
Oh, yeah?
Got him, stuck a base map in, safe tune, got him out on track, and off he went.
A happy customer to get a supply, install and tune at a car show while eating barbecue.
Yeah.
That's probably the upper limit of technical support right there.
That's what we're known for.
Good on them.
The technical support.
And back here in Sydney, we've got so many Nissan GTRs that we had not one, but 2 GTR events right here.
That's right. We had the Maatouks Dyno Day and we had GTR Festival. And it's amazing how many GTRs there are actually here in Sydney. It's phenomenal.
So you were at GTR Festival at Sydney Dragway.
I was.
Tell us, how'd it go?
Well, take a look at the video. That's right, we are at GTR Festival. It's Motive DVD celebration of Nissan's most famous car. Let's go take a look. So I see you wearing an Allied Performance product. So are you a personal friend of Turbo Yoda?
Not a friend, just a fan.
Right. I'm a friend. This could be the coolest car here. Catching up with Dale Malone here, who's at GTR Festival with his Nissan. Mate, not a GTR, but still a pretty special car.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not a GTR. I wish it was, but we've got a Nissan Motorsport Works Super GT car here.
And it's a GT 300, which means that it was limited in Japan to running 300 horsepower.
That's right, yeah. It runs a V6, naturally aspirated at 300 horsepower, so it's not highly powered at all, really.
Is that why you were so slow at time attack?
Can we not go there?
And mate, they tell me that you are going to hit the quarter mile with this.
I am. I'm going to try not to break anything, so it'll be a gentle launch, but we'll see what it does. Hopefully under a 14, maybe a 12 if we're lucky.
So not really fast.
Not at all.
So like your times at World. Mate, it's awesome to see you out and about and actually using it, unlike a lot of people with their old vintage, expensive race cars.
Well, if you have a race car, you're meant to use it, right? Why collect dust with something, You may as well enjoy it. I'm not going to damage it here. It's not going to hit the wall or anything, so, it's pretty safe. May as well enjoy the car for what it is.
Ricky Hong from Turbo Smart. Mate, tell me a little bit about the R34.
Well, I've had the car for 3 years, bought it as pretty much stock, and I'm sort of restoring it to what I like it. So
you say you've had it 3 years, knowing you, this is probably the first time you've had it out of the garage.
Yeah.
Well, have you got a GTR yourself?
No, just an enthusiast, mate, of all Japanese cars and all makes and models, bro. I got autism, so my memory and processing information is like just where it's at, and cars are just like my passion. Yeah, of course. Like I'm in my zone, bro. Like if you're not using Haltech on your car, what are you doing with yourself?
That looks awesome, and while you were over there, I was across the other side of town, say 20 kilometres away, at the Maatouks Dyno Day. Now these guys, to sort of show a bit of appreciation for their customer base and for their fan base, they put on a GTR Dyno Day showcasing all of their huge drag cars. So basically, what an RB doesn't come out of there with less than, say, 1,000 horsepower.
Oh, that's a small one.
Yeah. That's stock.
Street trim.
So they had the Don that we keep talking about on the dyno. They had all of the huge drag cars on the dyno making 1,500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 horsepower.
Yep.
They put on a huge barbecue. They do it really, really well.
Yep.
They did it for free.
But raised a bit of money.
Raised
at the same time.
Bucket of money. So they raised a bit over 30 grand from sponsors, from their customers, from anyone who basically wanted to contribute. So they went and donated all of that money to Westmead Children's Hospital.
That's fantastic.
Mate, good on you guys. And now moving down to country Victoria to Winton Raceway. The V8 supercars were there, and because of that, our V8 SuperUtes were there as well. And before we even go into this, have a look at this video.
They think they're stadium super trucks or something.
Imagine the
mate.
teeth rattling that he would have got.
Yeah, so that was Jared Maggs, got a bit sideways out on the dirt.
Yeah.
Turned his car a bit sideways, and Woods just T-boned him and launched.
So that was the first of the impressive Mags family. So that one was Jared just getting a little bit loose.
So mate, after the dust settles after a super huge race, and there's always a bit of dust, there's been different winners almost every round. So the championship is wide open, but at the moment, I think who's on top? Craig
Woods is on top.
Yeah.
Dontas second and Borg third. Borg's been pretty consistent. I think he's just had a little bit of bad luck the whole way through.
It's mate. There's always so much close racing, and if you haven't watched it, do go and watch it. It's fantastic. I have a laugh every time I watch it. Mate, one more event that we had here in Sydney, not really motorsport related, actually a car show. The Sydney Hot Rod and Custom Show was on at Rose Hill. Glenn Noonan, with his beautiful 32 Ford, picked up a trophy for I think third best judged hot rod.
I'm probably right on trend because I can see down here it's got a 671. So this is a screw-blown supercharged
Screw-blown
V8.
supercharged V8. Oh,
It's a spectacular looking car.
yeah, and road registered. Actually drives it around on the road.
Really?
Yeah. Speaking of cool, I wanted to give a shout out to my mate Tony. Was out at the drag strip on Saturday. We went and took a bit of footage and hung out with him for a bit there. Tony just turned 80 and is racing his Commodore. He managed a best of 9.9, running on 7 cylinders. He's actually run an 8.8 in that car, and it was just really good to see him out at the track having a great day and doing what he loves as an 80-year-old dude.
Mate, you know what? When I'm 80, I would be loving it if I could pilot a 9-second car. Truthfully, I'd love it if I could pilot a 13-second car when I'm 80.
I've never gone that fast in a car. Okay, mate, that's got all of our PBs, events, and everything that have happened in the last month. What's been happening in the building here? So we've got some new products to talk about, or some new firmware
Well, we've got
releases?
some products on the way.
Yep.
There's been a firmware release, there's been some software release, there's been a bunch of new functions. So I've prepared my little list here. So the things that we have. The responsiveness of all of our PWM and 0 to 100% duty cycle stuff has gotten a whole lot nicer, which is helping us for things like our progressive nitrous control strategies. Basically what's happening there is as soon as that nitrous engages, we're basically getting a huge shot of nitrous right up. That's going to make a lot of these pro nitrous guys super happy.
Okay.
We've added a bunch of channels. We've added distance travelled since stopped and distance travelled since launch. These are really cool because they allow us then to be able to map out things along the racetrack versus the distance that you've travelled. So you might have a bump in the track at, say, 50 metres, 70 metres, 100 metres, 100 feet, whatever out, and be able to map against that. So that's really cool. 3 generic PID controllers. Sounds complicated, but what that is, so that's a generic closed loop controller. A lot of people have been asking for these for things like, we might want to have like, let's say on a sequential turbo style system. So if you've got a primary and a secondary turbocharger.
Like a RX-7?
Like an RX-7.
Or an old Supra?
Like a compound turbocharged 10 litre, 3,000 horsepower V8. You might want to control the boost pressure from that primary turbocharger that's feeding the second turbocharger, which in turn has another boost controller for the inlet manifold pressure.
Okay.
Cool.
Keep going.
You might want to control the pressure on, say, your shock platforms, for example, so that in your drag car, when it takes off, you might want to raise that shock platform up. So you fill it with CO2 pressure. You're not raising the car up. You're actually pushing the tyre down harder into the track, but you want to map out that pressure in that bag over time.
So you may want to do that at half track or something like that to give you a bit more drive.
Normally within the first, say, 1 second, an eighth, somewhere eighth, a ninth, somewhere around there. Basically, as soon as the car can handle more power, we'll then put more power in, and then we'll push that tyre into the ground using one of these closed loop like a targeted control system.
So that will make you go faster.
All of our features hopefully make you go faster.
Awesome.
Nissan Atessa control, so the four-wheel drive controller for the Nissan R32, R33,
For
R34.
the 5,000 GTRs that we have here in Sydney that we saw the other weekend, yep.
Yep, so the Nexus series will do full Atessa control. It'll control the pump. It's got feedback from the onboard G meters so that we can control that whole Atessa system as a standalone unit. You don't need a separate device anymore.
Cool.
It's really cool. We've got transfer case pressure. We've got handbrake switch input. They're used in conjunction with the Atessa control system. We've made it so that vehicle speed input for our GPS speed sensors. So instead of having to configure that, you can just wire that in, choose Haltech GPS speed sensor, and it just works by itself. That's very convenient. We have got a new trigger pattern. So that's the crank and cam relationship for the Daihatsu EF to EL series engine.
Which was in what, a mirror?
Yeah, the older style Daihatsu-y stuff.
Like
not super popular in pro mod drag racing, but
No.
nonetheless still a popular
A
engine.
little 3-cylinder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to own one of those. Actually, it was in. We put it in a video a while ago.
One of the things that we have changed a little bit, the kill switch function will now turn off fuel pumps, cut power to ignition coils, and injector outputs when you're using the Nexus Series ECU.
Okay.
So the kill switch function used to turn the engine off. Now it does a bit of extra stuff, and it basically turns your pumps and turns your power off as well.
So that's so you don't stop the engine and then have fuel still going into the
You might have
everywhere.
a fuel leak and a
Yeah.
power supply thing going on or something. Yep, so it's more of a kill switch.
It's a safety thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And mate, there's new stuff with the IC7 with the dash.
There is. So there's a new software for the dash. It's 1.11.7. It's available to download off our fresh new website, which is still awesome. When you grab that software, go online with your dash, it will ask you to do a firmware update. Say yes. There's a couple of new, there's a new screen there, the classic screen. And for new products, these have been sitting on the table in front of us for a while
Yeah,
now.
what are these things that
Let's play with
kind
them.
of nice and
So this
telescopy?
is bit of a sneak preview. So these will be available soon, but these are primarily for shop travel, but you can use them for whatever you want, really.
Okay.
So this is a linear potentiometer. So it's got a 5-volt supply, a 0-volt, and a signal out. It's got a pillar ball style mount top and bottom. So the idea of these is you would mount them about halfway through the travel of your suspension, so that if you're a drag car, you can watch your 4-link work. If you're a circuit car, you can watch your shock systems work and make sure that you're in the middle of your travel and see what's going on. Or
So you could maybe put it on the seat rail of your car, and then if like a midget or someone or a small child steals your car, you could do it so you've got
we're going to get through this without a tall joke. But while we're here, so this would be the position if I was driving the car.
Yes, yeah.
And then this would be the Richard
Yeah,
position.
yeah, thank you.
What's up next, Richo?
Well, obviously we are here on the YouTubes, and you watch the YouTube. So there's a couple of YouTube channels that I've been checking out, and you've been checking out that I thought we might share. They're pretty cool.
All right.
Give them a bit of a shout out.
One each. What's yours of the month?
Well, I want to start with Mike Burrows from Stanceworks. If you haven't seen his latest build, it is a Ferrari with a Honda engine, a K-swap. He's really gone out to provide all the butt hurts.
People. If you're doing like a Ferrari build or something like that, like it's hard to get those engines, hard to get parts.
Yeah, for reliability, hard to get the power out of them. So yeah, turbo K-swap in the back, of course. It's a mid-rear Ferrari 308, I think. Got a cool body kit. He's going to use it for a bit of time attacking, that sort of stuff. And it's a really cool build. He does it a new video every couple of days. Really documents his stuff very well. Using a Nexus, Haltech Nexus in it.
Man, they seem to be super successful in the kit car style things now. To have a Nexus, have all of the I/O going to that one unit, and a keypad as well. Killing it, really cool.
Really cool build, really nice attention to detail, and I like it. I think you should watch it.
Mine's a little bit different to that. So not so much building cars, but rather rating cars.
Reviewing cars.
Reviewing cars.
Yeah, okay.
Reviewing, redriven, R-E-D-R-I-V-E-N, redriven.
So what sort of stuff do these guys do? It's kind of, it sort of reminds me of some of the old magazine content that it used to be.
Yeah, it really is like that. So they've got a bunch of YouTube videos on stuff like, I don't know, for example, like the top 5 sleepers that you can buy.
Okay.
Or top 5 underrated performance cars.
Yep.
Or there's other stuff like, should I buy a Mercedes C or whatever E a few years old?
Yeah, right.
So it gives you a bit of a good insight about some cars that you might not have known about, or some cars that you are considering and then you're not quite sure if you should buy one, like how many problems it's really going to have.
I see they've got the top 5 overrated BMWs there. I wonder if my car's on that list.
I haven't seen any 335 stuff, but that would be a perfect example of one that you would look at and be like, man, this is a pretty nice car.
Yeah.
But then as you found out, the purchase price is often less than the repair price.
There are some ongoing maintenance costs with a little M Series BMW, yeah. And of course, staying on the interwebs, this is the Planet Haltech TV show. We have the Planet Haltech Facebook group where you can share your cool builds and stuff like that. And one guy has shared a really cool build in there.
So this was the call to action at the end of last episode to say, please share your cool cars with us so that we can share them with the people. This thing is cool.
This 1965 Mercedes 190D that's owned by Kevin Young, and he has K-swapped it, one of your favourite engine conversions.
And it just makes so much sense. But what Kevin here has done with this car is, see, like in the engine bay detail, he's set it up so it still almost looks like a Mercedes style engine. Like it's got the billet rocker cover, the billet intake, everything's polished in the right way that you could be forgiven for thinking that's a standard-ish style engine in that.
Yeah, they're not very standard-ish looking wheels.
No, or headlights. Did they have that
I
style?
don't think they had rainbow halo things on the factory. No,
Not
no,
at that time.
So, no.
And with that, we're done for this episode.
That's right. Thank you for watching us on Haltech TV. Jump on the Facebook group, Planet Haltech. Be sure to go and share your shit. Share your builds in there with us. We'll see you next time. Copy later.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, smash that like button. We put out a new video every week and sometimes even 2. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more awesome content.